Hey Divi Nation, thanks for stopping by to learn more about the Divi Builder with our Divi documentation. So in this video, what we're going to show you how to do is get started with the Divi Builder. So the Divi Builder is baked into our Divi theme, our extra theme, and of course, it is the Divi Builder plugin. So there's a lot to get into when it comes to getting started with the Divi Builder. There's things ideal for the beginner and for the professional. So what we're going to do is show you how to use all of the most basic features and then give you kind of like an idea of what's possible when you start to get really creative and advanced with a lot of the design features and functions that we've put in the Advanced Design tab, as well as the Advanced CSS tab of most modules. So strap in. This is a little bit longer video than most of ours, but I know you're going to enjoy it and get a lot out of it. Check it out.
In this tutorial, I'll be giving you a basic overview of the Divi Builder with a focus on the Visual Builder interface. Now, this is going to be a very basic tutorial, and I'm going to cover a lot of things, but I'm not going to go too in-depth into any particular feature because there's just so much to show you. But if at any point during this tutorial you want to learn more about something that I'm talking about, head back to our main documentation page where we have dozens and dozens of full-length tutorials that cover every single aspect of the Divi Builder. The Divi Builder is a drag-and-drop WordPress page builder that allows you to construct your pages from top to bottom by combining various structural elements. Think of it as a mini website builder that lives inside of WordPress and replaces the standard WordPress post editor. The Divi Builder has three main structural elements that are used to build all of your pages. Those are sections, rows, and modules. Sections are your largest organizational element, and they are used to house rows of columns. And inside of each row, inside of each column, you can add modules. Modules are your content elements, like texts and images, sliders, galleries. And you use rows and different columns to organize those content elements. And then you use sections to organize your rows. So that's kind of like the hierarchy of every Divi Builder page. This is a page here that I built with the Divi Builder. It's a very, very basic page with the most basic of modules. This first big section here, this big white block you see, that's my first section. And inside of that section are two rows. This first row here is a 2-column row. Inside the first column of our first row, we have a text module. Inside the second column of our first row, we have an image module. And then below that, we have a second row, just a 1-column row with a single text module. Below this, we have our second section. I've added a dark gray background to this section. And so you can kind of see where the first section ends and the second section begins. And inside of this section, I have a single row. This row is a 3-column row, and I have placed an image module into each of the 3 columns. So like I said, these are just the kind of the most basic of the modules, but there are over 40 modules, and ranging from simple things like text to more advanced things like contact forms and email opt-ins, portfolio sliders, and all this kind of great stuff. So if there's something you want to add to your page, there's a good chance that there's a module for that. So what I'm going to do now is jump into the Visual Builder and kind of show you what the Builder interface looks like. So I'm going to click the Enable Visual Builder, and that's going to launch the Builder and allow us to edit our page. So here we go, it's loading up, and we are now in the Visual Builder. The reason I keep calling it the Visual Builder is because there are two builder interfaces to Divi. There's the Visual Builder that lives on the front end of your website. So when we're logged into the website and we're browsing the pages, at any moment while you're on the front end of your website like this, you can enable the Visual Builder and start editing your page on the page itself. So this is the page I showed you before, but now the Builder is enabled, and I can start editing things. You can see that each row has some sections. You can see the modules here. You can add new modules, add new rows, add new sections, and do everything visually. This is really kind of the beautiful thing about the Divi Builder. It's this Visual Builder interface. But there's a second interface as well called the Backend Builder. And this exists inside of the WordPress dashboard, and it allows you to do all the same stuff that you can do in the Visual Builder. It's just here for your convenience inside of the dashboard. So if you're editing your post, you can use the Backend Builder. And like I said, it does all the same stuff. The only difference is you are editing using this block-based representation inside of the post editor. And it's great for making quick edits. You can add new modules. You can edit your module settings and do everything. You can do everything inside of here. And you can kind of see the structure of our page, right? You can see our first section here. It's that blue element on the side. You can see our 2 rows that I showed you before. Our first row of 2 columns, our second row of 1 column, our various text and image modules. And if at any point during this time you want to enable the Visual Builder, you can click the Use Visual Builder button here. So you can actually bounce back and forth between the Visual Builder and the Backend Builder at any time. So I'm going to head back to our Visual Builder here. If I wanted to edit the page, I can click Edit Page, and it'll bring us into the WordPress dashboard. And here we have the Backend Builder. And if I want to jump into the Visual Builder, I can click the Use Visual Builder button from the backend and jump over to the front end. And like I said in the beginning of this tutorial, I'm really going to focus on the Visual Builder interface. But both of the Builder interfaces do the same thing. They work in the same way. So anything I'm saying here applies to the Backend Builder as well. Okay, so now we are in the builder. You can kind of see the structural elements I was referring to before. We have our first section here outlined in blue. You can do various things to each element. You can move them around by clicking the move icon. The second icon here is the settings icon. When this is clicked, it opens up the settings for the section. And you can, edit the background image, background color, and all this great stuff. Second is the duplicate button. If I click this, it's going to duplicate the section. And here we go, it's been duplicated. The second one here is saving to library. So the Divi library is a place you can kind of save elements and you reuse them for later, but I'm going to skip past that and kind of go over that later on. And finally, we have the delete icon. You can use this to delete something. Okay, so I've duplicated my section, I deleted it, and we're kind of back to where we started here. And next up, we have our first row. And again, you can move it. So I can move the row down if I wanted to, or down the page. I can move it over in this section if I wanted to. I can move it back up. You can open up the row settings. The settings pop-ups are nice. You can adjust their size and everything. You can also snap it to the left. And if you prefer to have a sidebar mode, and you can make it bigger and smaller and all that great stuff. You can expand it, contract it. It's really great working in the Visual Builder. We've really worked hard to make sure that the interface doesn't really obstruct your vision of the content. We try to make it as invisible as possible. In fact, we often call it the invisible interface. So there you can open up and manage your row settings. Lots of great stuff here. Again, I'm not going to go into in depth into all the settings. We have individual tutorials that cover all the section settings, all the row settings, all the module settings. Okay, so that's our first row. Inside of the row, we have 2 modules here. Again, I can move the modules around. So I could move this down here if I wanted to. I can move it back up. I can open up the settings for the text module, where we can adjust our color and orientation and the text itself. You can duplicate it, you can save it to the library, and you can delete it. Okay. Also, in text modules, which is great, you can, in fact, any text on the page in the Visual Builder, you can just click into and start typing. It's really amazing. You can highlight it, adjust the fonts. You can do everything. You can apply H1s, apply text sizes, adjust the fonts, adjust the color. It's really, really, really great. And here we have our second module here, the image module. I could open up that and change the image if I wanted to. I'll adjust the image there. There we go. And all the other image settings. So like I said, I'm not going to go in depth into all of these settings because there are over 40 modules and hundreds of settings. That's why we have tutorials for all the different modules. But in general, when you open up a settings modal like this, you'll be greeted with 3 different tabs. We have our general settings tabs. And inside the general settings, you can basically find everything you need to configure the basic settings in the module. You can adjust the content of the module, you can adjust its layout and its basic colors and that kind of stuff. But if you want even more control over the appearance of the module, you can jump into the design settings. And if you want even more control, you can jump into the CSS settings and you can apply custom CSS to each element in the page. So for example, if I were to open up the text module settings and jump into the design tab, I'm going to find all kinds of design settings. You can basically adjust every single part of the element. You can adjust the text size. So I can bring the text size up and you'll see it all happen right in front of your eyes. You can, adjust the styling, make it all caps, bold, adjust the color, adjust the font itself. There's something here for every single part of the module. You can even apply custom styles to different breakpoints. So we have the responsive editing system here. If I click this responsive editing system, I can bounce back and forth between tablet, smartphone, and desktop and apply different sizes and styles to different devices. So I could have like a really big text size on a desktop, but on tablet or smartphone, I could bring it down a bit to make it suit the device size, screen size a bit more. And then at the bottom here, we have the ability to save your changes. So if you have been editing your module and you like what you've changed, you can click the check mark to say, okay, I'll accept those changes. You can also go back and forth through time and undo and redo your changes. So if I were to increase the font size here, I don't really like it, I can go back and forth. And you can click the X button here to just cancel everything you've done. Sometimes you've been playing with the module for a while and just gets out of control. You don't like what you've done. You don't want to go through all the settings and figure out what you've changed. You just want to get rid of it and start over, in which case you can click the X button and just start fresh. So those controls are really, really great. You never have to fear that you're going to mess something up. You can always undo and cancel and whatnot. Okay, so now we've kind of gone over the 3 basic elements. We've gone over kind of the various things you can do with those, such as editing their content and duplicating and deleting and moving. Now you can also add new content. So this is the content that was already on our page, but we can add new stuff as well. So if I click any of these plus buttons, you can add any of the 3 structural elements. We have the gray plus button for adding modules, the green plus button for adding rows, and the blue plus button for adding sections. So if I were to click the plus button here, I'd be prompted to add a new section, which brings us to the 3 main section types: regular, specialty, and full width. Again, we have a tutorial that goes over all this stuff in depth, so be sure to check that out. But in general, the regular sections are what we've been working with here. They house rows of columns. Full width sections don't have columns. They just have full width modules that expand the full width of the page. So we have like full width images, full width carousels and sliders. So if you add a full width section, that's for adding full width elements to the page. And then specialty sections allow you to do various sidebar layouts. But yeah, check out the section tutorial, which goes over all of these in a bit more depth. I'm just going to add a standard section. And when you add a new section, you're going to be prompted to add a new row inside of that section. And you can add, like I said, any of these column types. So I've shown you a 2-column row, a 3-column row. Let's add a 4-column row. Okay, so we've added our first section, added a row of 4 columns. And here you can kind of see the 4 columns, and there's a gray plus button inside of each of the empty columns that you can use to add a module. And it's going to prompt us to add our first module automatically. So I can go through the list of modules here. There's all kinds of great modules, like I said. There's over 40 of them. And we can kind of pick one to add. How about a button? I'm just going to add a button to this first column. Okay, so I click the button, and it's going to bring up the button settings. The button is added automatically, and we can start configuring the button. We can change the URL. We can decide where the button opens in the same window or a new window. We can adjust the text. We can change the alignment and so on. You can jump into the advanced design settings and customize every aspect of the button, the color, the hover color, background color, text size, and all that stuff. Okay, so I've like what I've added here. I'm going to save it. And we can continue adding modules. I'll click another plus button. This time, how about we add a blurb? A blurb is like a combination of text and icon. So I can add a title. Title goes here. I can add in some content. That's a lot of content. Let me add a little less. Okay, there we go. And we can add an icon to it. Move that icon to the top. We can adjust the color of the icon. We can adjust the position of the icon. And so on. We can adjust the header font size. And go through the settings, just customize the module and adjust the design as you see fit. Okay, so I've added my first button. I've added a Blurb module. This design is getting a little bit random, but I'm just kind of showing you what can be done here. And I can duplicate these and move them over to our empty columns. I'm gonna get rid of this button, duplicate this again, and now we kind of have a standard blurb layout. You often see these kind of info boxes at the top of pages that, on a kind of standard website. In fact, I'm going to drag this up to the top. And there we go. And so yeah, that's kind of how you add content. You can add more rows to this section. I could add another row below it. I could add another section below that, and so on. So yeah, that's kind of like a basic overview of the 3 basic structural elements, which are sections, rows, and modules. And next I'm going to go over kind of the general page settings. So much like each section, row, and module has settings, so does the page. And all of your page settings can be found down here by clicking the dock icon. And that'll expand the page settings. You can do things like save the page. So if you like what we've had here, we can save it. And it's saving, and it's saved. So if I were to refresh this page, it'd be all saved. Over here on the left, you can jump between the responsive view toggles, so you can kind of get an idea what your site looks like on each device. You can also zoom out, which is great for managing your section. So you can zoom out and kind of like drag things around a bit easier. You can also edit things here too. So I could, bring up the section settings here and adjust this background color. I like kind of getting this overview mode and kind of scrolling through the page and getting, a bird's eye view of the page and making kind of macro adjustments. And we can head back down here. So zoom back in. And then to go over each of the page settings icons, you'll actually recognize most of these icons from the icons you see when hovering over each of the 3 structural elements. But there are a couple of new ones as well. But the first one is the settings icon. You can open this up to adjust your page settings. And there's various things you can adjust here, like your standard section background color, your content background color, text color. You can add custom CSS to the page, and so on. You can import and export layouts. So if you like a layout that you've built here, you can export it and import it onto a different Divi website using the import tab. You can bring up your editing history as well. So as you edit your page, every single action is saved and logged, and you can actually undo and redo and go back through time to any moment. So if I were to go all the way back to the beginning, I'd see the page as it existed when we started editing, and you can see each and everything that I've done. And if you kind of like decided after a while that you didn't like what you've been working on for the past 30 minutes, don't worry, just go back to your favorite point in time. So I'm going to go back to where I am now, and I can also undo and redo. And once you've kind of found a spot you like, you can accept it or just cancel and go back to where you started. Okay, so that's the history pop-up. And in addition to kind of using these buttons to undo and redo, you can also just press Control Z or Command Z depending on whether you're on your Windows or Mac. So if I were to delete something and just press Control-Z, it would undo that deletion. You can also clear your layout. So if I click this, it's going to delete everything, and I can start fresh. Oh, there it's gone. If you did that by mistake, don't worry. Just press Control-Z, and we're back. Okay. You can also save your layout to the library. I kind of touched on this very briefly earlier, but you can save layouts to the library and then load them on new pages. So it's a great way, if you built a layout that you really like and you want to use it again, you can save it to the library, and when you're starting on a new page, you can load it up, and you're good to go. You can also add pre-made layouts that come with Divi. So if I were to click this icon here, it's kind of like adding new sections and rows. You can add new layouts. So this is like the highest hierarchy of your page in a way. So here you see there's various plus buttons. You can add a module, you can add a row, you can add a section, or you can add a layout. And this will completely replace your page with a layout from your library or from the list of pre-made layouts that come with Divi. So I could bring this up and kind of like load one of the predefined layouts that come with Divi. So we have lots of great stuff here that you can use as a starting point. And it's a great way to start off, especially if you're new to Divi, to just kind of like load up your new page and add one of these pre-made layouts. You can search them too. So if I want to say I have a home page, I can add one of our home pages here. So I'm going to click the home page extended layout, and it's going to load up and completely replace the page with that pre-made layout. And I can kind of hop in here and start editing text and whatnot, configuring the modules, replacing the content and the colors and that kind of stuff. And let me go back here to our previous state. Okay, there we go. And so let's say I like this layout and I want to use it again later on. Not the most beautiful layout, but let's just say it's a great layout and I want to use it again. I can save that to the library, and the next time that I open up this load from library button, I'm going to see it over here. So I will save this to the library and we'll just call it demo layout example. I'm going to save this, and then if we're going to create a new page, you can load that up and start from this point. And so let's go ahead and do that. Let's add a whole new page. Let's start fresh and create a new page with the Divi Builder. So I'm going to head back into my WordPress dashboard, head over to Pages, click Add New, call it Testing, and here we go. The first thing you're going to notice is that the Divi Builder is not enabled by default on new pages. You have to click the Use Divi Builder button to launch the builder. So I'm going to click Use Divi Builder, and that's going to enable the Backend Builder interface, which I showed you earlier. Since we're in the post editor here, you're going to see the Backend Builder, and you can use it just like the Front-End Builder. You can insert columns, so add a column. I can insert modules, add some text, and so on. You can duplicate, delete, move, drag, drop, load from library, save to library, undo, redo, all the great stuff. But we're going to start from scratch here and jump into the Visual Builder. So I'm going to click the Use Visual Builder and start editing my blank page. All right, it's loading up. You can see that it's blank. It adds a section for you to begin with, and then it's up to you to add your first row. So I'm going to click the green plus button here. I'm going to add a row, and we can start loading up your site with content as we did the first time. But if you don't want to really start from scratch, you can also load from the library. So I'm going to bring it click the Load from Library button. I'm going to click on the Add from Library tab. Here's this layout I just saved, the demo layout example. I'm going to click that, and here's that page we just built, and we can use that on our fresh page to start building. All right, so that's really kind of the basic overview of the Divi Builder with a focus on the Visual Builder interface. And like I said, there's really so much more to learn about Divi. So head back over to the documentation page and go through all the tutorials. We have tutorials that focus on each of the 40+ modules. It goes through every single setting for every single module. It goes over the advanced design settings, We have a tutorial that focuses just on the advanced design settings and how to take advantage of those. We have a tutorial that focuses on how to use custom CSS. We have a tutorial that focuses on section settings and row settings, full width sections and specialty sections. We have a tutorial that focuses on the Divi library, and other really cool things that I haven't even mentioned, like the Divi lead split testing system. So head back over the documentation page, read through those tutorials, and you're going to be a Divi master in no time.